Because if he isn't there in the first connection, he missed his opportunity, and he can't do the man-in-the-middle attack for the later connections. This is a really nice feature of SSH, and everyone's quite happy with it. Well, I'm doing something similar to that. I mean, the idea of this is to use something called key continuity. And SSH uses key continuity by caching key material, and so do I. Remember, I told you that I destroy the key material at the end of the call. But I don't actually destroy it completely. What I do is I compute a hash of the key material, and then when I destroy all the key material, I save the hash of it, and I store the hash in the cache. And later on, when we make another call, it does another Diffie-Hellman exchange, just like it always does. But it mixes in some of the material from the previous call. So that if there's no man-in-the-middle attack in the first call, there cannot be one in the second call, or the third call, or any other call after that. So he's missed his opportunity, and we presume that the typical wiretapper is probably going to be attacking later on after he develops an interest in you in your conversation with the other party. So. So this means that I could call you, say, 100 times and never check the short authentication string. Maybe I would call you over the course of a whole year. I would call you 100 times. Every 3 or 4 days I'd be calling you. But then they're asking me to shut off the background image. All right, I'll let you see my messy office. There we go. Okay. Okay, so let's see. Now we got to get back to where was I? Oh, yeah. So we talked to each other about 100 times, and we never bother to check the short authentication string because we're just too lazy. But then on the 100th call, we're going to talk about a bunch of secret stuff, and we feel that this is a sensitive call, and we don't want there to be a man in the middle. So we finally get around to checking the short authentication string. It says classroom phonetic. It changes on every call. And we compare it, and it's equal on both sides, and that means there's no man in the middle attack on this call. But it also retroactively means that there never was a man in the middle attack on any of the previous calls for the past year, all the 100 calls that we already made. That's a nice security feature. Of course, the opposite is also true. If they don't match, it means that there's a man in the middle attack on this call, and there was a man in the middle on every call all the way back for the past year for all 100 calls. That would be a really that would be a rather alarming revelation to make. So it's better if you check it in the first call than wait 100 calls to check it. Let's see. I think I'd like to open it up for questions now, because I'd like to get an idea of what you're interested in. Oh, wait, there is one thing before I open it up for questions. I want to say something about PBXs. You see, a lot of this protocol is designed to stop a man-in-the-middle attack. But PBXs really love to be a man-in-the-middle. That's what they do most of the time. They like to do transcoding, or they like to, do a lot of stuff that involves being a man-in-the-middle. And so this makes it difficult to reconcile these two contradictory objectives. So I had to modify the protocol to make it work with Asterisk. The way I do that is I make it so that if you have a phone that's registered to an Asterisk PBX, you go through this special security enrollment procedure where you compute a shared secret between your phone, let's say your phone is running ZRTP, and the PBX, which is also running ZRTP. And your phone is one of the, this is your company's PBX, so you have a company phone on your desk. You probably don't even have to encrypt it at all because it's only 10 meters from your desk to the closet that holds the PBX. But let's assume that that you have a secure phone on your desk that's running ZRTP. So you do this security enrollment procedure so that the phone and the PBX share a key, just like an SSH connection. It uses key continuity again, and so every time after that, when I call you through the PBX, what happens is the PBX terminates the ZRTP connection at the PBX, and then makes another ZRTP connection to your phone. And that means we're going to have two different short authentication strings. But the PBX will relay the short authentication string from my phone. It'll relay that to your phone. Now, normally, you wouldn't display that because it might be a man-in-the-middle attack. But in this case, you have a special trust relationship with the PBX because you earlier went through a security enrollment procedure that computed a shared secret between your phone and the PBX. Because of that shared secret, the two devices recognize each other, and the phone trusts the PBX, and therefore thinks the PBX can act as a trusted man-in-the-middle, and therefore can display the short authentication string that's relayed to the phone from the PBX that the PBX calculated with my phone. So you'll be able to verbally compare the short authentication string, despite the fact that there's a man in the middle. It's a trusted man in the middle, and that's how the Asterisk PBX can use the ZRTP protocol. That's the kind of loophole we made for the protocol. Let me get my headphones on so I can hear people. Let's open it up for questions.
Okay. Do you read me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, Phil, I'm going to mute the microphone whenever somebody is not asking, so that you don't have an echo problem, okay?
Okay. Talk loud, please.
I just want to know, how do you actually compute the English alphabet, the English words from the Diffie-Hellman key parameter?
Well, the word list I'm using is the word list that's used in PGP. How many people here have used PGP? Yeah? Okay. I can see that this is a completely random audience, right? Well, in principle, we could use other lists of words, but I happen to pick the one that's used by PGP. See, back in 1995 and 96, I developed this word list for PGP phone, and I hired a computational linguist. I never even heard of computational linguists, but this guy is a computational linguist. And what we did was we created a list of 256 words that are phonetically distinct. And he did that using genetic algorithms. He took the entire dictionary of zillions of words, and he made groups of them and measured the phonetic distance between each of the words on the list, and found that whichever list had the largest average phonetic distance between the words, he had them reproduce with sexual reproduction in his genetic algorithms, and gradually refined the list of words over about 40 hours. It took 40 hours on a DEC Alpha, which in 1995, a DEC Alpha was a pretty hot machine. And we ended up with a list of words that were very, very phonetically distinct. And it's similar to the NATO phonetic alphabet. And that's what we developed that for PGP phone. And it seems to work pretty well. And later on, we used it for PGP. If you've been to a PGP key signing party, or you just try to verify your PGP key over the phone with somebody, you might use these words to read the fingerprint aloud. I hope that my answer has something to do with the question that you asked, if I understand.